Hello, my name is Carl Surrey and this is a video tutorial for two Facebook groups, fans of Serif software and the Affinity Designer and Photo group. This tutorial is about making a sort of film poster that looks like it's been drawn by hand, a bit like those you'd find in the 80s and what have you. Now this was inspired by a Photoshop tutorial by Spoon Graphics, where they do they're doing an airbrushed film poster style effect. Now Photoshop uses two filters that aren't available in Affinity Photo, so there's no real way that I could really get that close to this look. I just tried to sort of do the best I can in adapting this tutorial. Now, to get the filters, you can get filters from various places. There's like Filter Forge, for example, you could use, but you have to pay for that one. So what I wanted was a sort of a free way of getting some filters, and what I've done is I've used FotoSketcher. I will add the link to this in the description for this video, and you just need to click on this button here, not this one up here because this is an advert I think, and then download it and install it onto your computer. It just gives you a range of filter styles that you can't get in Affinity Photo, and it's free. The other thing that you may want to download is a font, and it's called Steel Tongs. You can get this from various free font sites. You can just do a search for free Steel Tongs, but the one I want to display here is just called Font Site. I want to use this one because it displays the font quite well, because all the capital letters will give you the letters you need to type whatever word, but all the lowercase letters will give you these pre-made sort of film graphics type of things. They got written by, casting by, music by, and then some of the other, like the commas and hashtag, will give you makeup by artist, and so you can see here all in one go what all the different keys will give you. So I'm using that as a guide as to which buttons to press. So that is all of those things. So let me go back to Affinity Photo. So like I said, this is made up of this image here, which is this Cowboy image, which I got from Pixabay.com, and I will add a link to this as well in the description, and the background again from Pixabay.com, and I will add a link to this in the description. So basically what we need to do is first start off in FotoSketcher, not in Affinity Photo. So let me just close all these down and I'll open up FotoSketcher. And then all you need to do now is to open up whichever picture you are going to use, and on the left side here is the at the moment they're both showing the same image, but the left side will be the original, how it started out, and the right hand side will be where it will draw the new version. And in the middle it's got this box here, and you have a drop down menu of various filters that you can use, and the little box off to the right here will give you a brief idea of what that particular filter will give you. So I'm going to go with Painting 6, which is oil painting, and I will move the zoom out here and just drag this in so I can see his face. Now you can use whichever settings you want, but what I used was I had the strength effect at 200, image simplification I had at 22, color intensity I had at 60, which is where it's at, and lightness darkness I had at 132, and the brush stroke intensity I had at 61, 62, that will do, and the texture I had it strong texture, because you can have light texture, normal or strong, but I had it on strong, and I had a tick here with texture, and you can go like texture 6, texture 5, but I had mine on texture 7, and this will give you a rough idea in here of what that will look like. So once you're happy with that, just click on the draw button, and then it will slowly draw this image on that side in the style that you've just depicted, selected. Just takes a little while to draw that. It's getting there slowly, almost there. Alright, so we sort of got this drawn image here. So all you'd need to do is save that under, give it a new name. In fact, I think find it adds FotoSketcher on the end, so it has already given it a new name. I've already saved mine, so I won't bother doing that. I'll cancel that. Now I'll come back to this and I will do another version, but this time I'm going to use the pen and ink sketch number 2, and the settings I had for this was levels was at 40, darkened it to 40 as well, and simplification I moved down to 26, and again I had it on strong texture, and then just click draw. So just got to wait for it to redraw that. Right, so now we have this drawn. Again, I'd come to save as. Now you probably definitely will need to rename this one, because this will have the name FotoSketcher added, but it will be the same name as the one that you saved earlier. So save it as FotoSketcher 1 or 2 or whatever name you want, so you remember it. But again, I've already done that, so I won't bother saving it. So I will now close this down, and I will restart Affinity Photo with these images in it, and I'll be back in a little while. Okay, I have opened up both those two FotoSketcher images that I made, first being FotoSketcher Paint 2 and the other one being FotoSketcher Draw 2. So I have those two ready made, and I'm going to come back to the oil painting version first. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer. You can do this a number of ways. You can do it from the layer menu, come to duplicate, or you can press Ctrl and J, or you can just right click the layer over here and come to duplicate. And then this new version of this, I'm going to change the blending mode of this to overlay. Now that is my personal choice. You may prefer the effect of some other blending mode, but I've gone with overlay. So now I want to merge these into a new layer, or merge visible. Again, there are a number of ways of doing this, and we could be doing this quite often. So you can come to layer and merge visible, or if you've got enough fingers you can do Control Alt Shift and E, or again just right click the top layer and come down to merge visible. So now we have a single layer that has all the details from these layers below. Now I have found, I don't know quite why this happens, but I have found when I merge visible sometimes the image will look different from it wasn't a merged version. It doesn't really happen with this particular merging, but sometimes it will bring details back and sometimes it will lose details. I'm not certain quite why that happens, but that's how you merge visible. Like I said, we'll be doing this a number of times. Right, so now we have this merge layer. I'm going to come down to the bottom panel here and click on channels, and then I'm going to right click the composite blue layer and click load to pixel selection. So it will select quite a large area of the image here. If you're using a different image, it will maybe have less or more selected. It's sort of, I have no control over what areas are selected. So you may want to, if it doesn't select areas that you want, you may want to try maybe the red or the green and see which works best. But for my taste and this particular image, I thought the composite blue worked best. So once that is selected, I'm now going to press Control and J, or you can come up to duplicate from the layer menu, but Control and J, and it will make a new layer with that selection that is made there. So I'll now press Control and D to get rid of that selection, and I'm going to change the blending mode of this to vivid light. Again, you can pick whichever one you like the look of, but I've gone with vivid light. And then I'll just tone that down slightly, somewhere around the 50 to 60 mark. Let's go with 60. I think I used 50 when I first did it. I'll try it on 60 this time. Right, now we need to sort of remake that selection. You don't have to go through the process of right clicking down here again. You can just come up to the select menu and reselect. So it will remake that selection area. And then I'm going to come up to the layer menu and come down to new fill layer, or you can press F5, and you want white to be the fill layer color. And as you can see, it has added another layer above the first layer that we made from this selection. So once that has been made, we can press Control and D again to get rid of that selection area. And I'm going to just lower the opacity of this down, but it has made the whole image a lot brighter, but I'm just going to lower it down to about 40%. That's on 41, and that is close enough. So now I'm going to right click this top layer again and merge visible. So all that information is now on that one layer. Right. So now I want the sketch layer that I made before. Now you can either do this from the select all and then come to edit, copy, and then back to edit, or come to your back to this image and then paste. The quickest way to do it though is just to highlight the layer, right click it, come to copy, come to back to the image here, and then up to the edit menu and paste. It's a lot easier to do it that way. Right, so now I'm going to change the blending mode of this to darken, and this will give me sort of, hopefully, that sort of drawn effect on the image, because it's adding all those little extra black lines that we've from the pencil drawing effect. Now what I'm going to do to this now is I'm going to add a layer mask, which is this icon here. It looks a bit like the Japanese flag, and I'm just going to click on that, and it will add a white layer mask to that image. Because it's a white layer mask, it won't show any effect because it is allowing the whole image to show through, or the whole of the image of this on this layer. So what I want to do is I'm going to get the brush tool, and I'm going to have black as my foreground color because we're going to be painting onto the mask itself, not the image. And I'm going to lower the opacity down around the 30% mark, hardness on 0, and the brush size is okay. And I'm just going to paint over the really dark areas of this gentleman's jacket and his hat, just to try and bring back some of that detail that was in that black area. Because if you look at the that image there, the pencil sketch drawing, it just really lost all the details in the really dark areas. So I just want to bring some of that back. You don't have to go too mad with it. Yeah, I think that'll do. Right. So once I've done that, I'm going to click and highlight that layer, and again merge visible. Hopefully you saw that when I merged that, it sort of slightly altered the image from what it looked like before I merged it. Don't know, sort of made it a bit darker. In theory it should stay the same, but it doesn't always. Right, so next thing I want to do is to duplicate this merged layer. So I'm going to use the right click and duplicate option, and then I'm going to come up to filters, sharpen, high pass, and I'm going to do a radius of just 2 pixels with a tick in the monochrome, and click apply. And then I'm going to change the blending mode of this. Normally when you use the high pass, you sort of use the overlay blending mode, but I'm going to be using the linear light. It's down here. Where is it? I've lost it. There we go. And the high pass filter will just make this the whole image a bit more grainier and more sort of cartoony, drawn type image. So again, I'm going to merge visible, so I'm going to highlight the top layer and merge visible, and that has now lost a bit of that sort of graininess in the merging process. But so this is pretty much as far as I want to go with this image. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to right click this merged layer, come to copy, come to my background, and then edit and paste. Now if I come to the move tool, you can see that it's slightly bigger than the background, but I'm going to hold down the control key and come to one of the corners and reduce the size, and it will stay in proportion because I'm holding down the control key while I'm doing this. Find a size that you like, and as we're on the move tool, I can move it to where I want. Now obviously you could, whatever image you're using, you can put it wherever you like, but because this image has some fairly straight edges and it's sort of cropping off the hat on three sides, I'm going to use the corner of this thing, so the background, so it automatically accounts for why these two sides have been cropped, and then I've only really have to deal with the straight edges on this side, but your image may be different. So once I have it positioned and in the position I like and the size that I like, I'm going to change the blending mode to soft light, which does almost hide that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that just to bring back some of the colour, but sort of allow the texture from below still to show through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the layers here, I'm going to hold down the control key and highlight the layer below so they are both highlighted, and then right click and come down to group. So those two are now sort of permanently linked together. And then I'm going to come to the eraser tool, which is this one here, or you can press E on the keyboard. And again, I'm going to have the hardness set to 0. And to start off with, I'm going to raise the opacity quite high, it's around the 70% mark. And I'm just going to initially start off by getting rid of this sharp edge to help this image blend in to the background a bit better, which is easier to do possibly in smaller clicks rather than trying to do one sweeping motion, which doesn't always seem to work that well, or at least not for me anyway. Right, once you get rid of the sort of obvious straight line, that I'm going to lower the opacity down to about 25% or so, and then I'm just going to hopefully soften that blend between the background and the image, maybe a little bit up the side there. Right, that will do, I think. So basically that is the image side of the project done. I might actually just make that a tad bigger, see whether that will work. Oh no, hang on. Might help if I actually highlight the object I want to make bigger. Yeah, that's better. Yes, I like that. Right, so that is, so if you're happy at this point, it might be a good point to save your project before we move on. So I'm assuming you've done that. So now add in some text. Now first we need the title of the film. So we're going to come to the Artistic Text tool, and you're going to want a font that suits the style of film that you're going to be making. I use this Boller typeface, which I think was part of Windows, or it's part of Affinity Photo. So I'll just click on that to select that typeface, and I'm going to change the color. Now I do know the hex code for the color that I want, and that is 714509, which is this sort of a browny color, which sort of I thought sort of went well with the background. So if you're using a different background, you may want to use a different color. So once I'm happy with the color and the typeface I'm using, I'm just going to draw out the size I think it's going to be, and then type what I want to say. Up to the move tool, just reposition it, maybe resize it slightly. Go. Come back to the Artistic Text tool. And then I'll right. Now I know I've gone off screen at the moment, but what I'll do is I'll just highlight all that text, and I'm going to resize it to the size that I want. Let's go with 48, and then I'm going to center that. Right, and this. So I'll come back to the move tool, and I'm just going to reposition that whole lot now in one go. Let's try about there. Right, so that's my film title and sort of credit done. So now I want the details along the bottom. Now I know that if you were doing a proper film poster, these would be quite small, but I'm going to just do this a bit bigger so you can see what it is. So I'm going to come back to the Artistic Text, and this time select the Steel Tongs font, and the color this time I'm going to go with is white. Right. So let me just come back to this website here. So what should we go for? Screenplay. There we go. Based on a novel by, which is N. So just press the N, and then you just may need to just move this over, and then come back to the Artistic Text tool, and then hold down the Shift key. Well, I'm going to do a space first. Hold down the Shift key, and then type it what you want it to put in, and then another space. And I'm going to come back to this here. We've got directed by, that is K. So hold down the shift key. Let me just use the move tool. So as you can see, you can resize it, hold down the control and resize the corners and make this smaller if need be. And then just come back to the artistic text tool. I'm just going to pick one at random and out check in and see what P is. Executive producer. Here we go. Oh, see, I made a mistake there. I'm not holding down the shift key for each letter. Whichever name you want to type, you have to remember you're doing it in capitals, and the lowercase keys will give you the job titles. So L. I can't really direct and co-direct. Let's try A. Written by. That'll do. And then come back to move tool, and I'll leave it at that. There you go. Apparently I wrote the novel, I directed it, I produced it, and I wrote the screenplay. So basically that is the end of the tutorial. Before I close down, I just want to add some effects to this title here. So I'm going to highlight that layer, and then I'm going to click on the FX button to bring up the effects panel, and the first thing I'm going to do is put a tick into outline. Click on the word outline to get the options. Black is already set as the color, and I'm just going to raise the pixels line up to about 3 pixels. Just give it a sort of thin black line round all the text. I'm then going to click on 3D. I'm not going to change any of the settings, I'm just going to leave it on whatever settings it's on, which I'm assuming is default, not the one that I last did. And the last one I'm going to do is put a tick in outer shadows. Click on the word outer shadows, and I'm going to leave the opacity on 50%. Radius, I'm going to come right to the end of 100, and offset it's about 32, 33, something like that. 33, that will do. And the intensity, I'm going to come up to 50%. And then close that. So this is my poster finished. I mean, obviously you could add more images and do whatever you wanted to for whatever purpose you want to make a poster for. I know it's not much like Spooner Graphics original that I was originally trying to convert, but this is the closest that I've been able to get. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.